You are tired of average. You want more out of life. You know you're capable of something greater. This show will help you become resilient in your home, at work, and in your community. Welcome to the Resilient Humans Podcast with your host, Kevin Wood. Welcome back to the Resilient Humans Podcast. And today's guest brings something truly special to the conversation. A lifetime of leadership, resilience, and heart. Gabriel Basque has over 20,000 hours of coaching experience and a passion for leadership rooted in something deeper than strategy, which we're going to get into later. From surviving a near-death experience at just 9 years old, to serving in the Army, to dedicating his life to coaching and ministry, Gabriel's journey reminds us that resilience isn't just about strength. It's about compassion, faith, and purpose. Today, we're diving into leadership, motivation, goal setting, and the powerful role that love plays in becoming resilient humans. Gabriel, welcome to the show.
Oh, Lee, that is quite the intro.
Feel free to use it anytime you want.
I will totally capture that and probably use AI to maybe amplify it. And then
Love it.
that's thank you so much for having me on the podcast.
No problem. You've been on my radar for quite some time. You know, we met probably a couple years ago now. You have over 20,000 hours of coaching experience, which is absolutely incredible. And can you tell us a little bit about your journey and then how it led you to focus so deeply on leadership and love?
Yeah, well, I'll try to summarize the last 15 years. Before becoming a coach, I used to be a correctional officer. 2010, I got laid off, drinking, partying, gambling, and I was at the point of either going on the streets, or I would be moving somewhere else or moving back home. And I decided to move with a random family that I actually found in Kijiji. And it was at that moment, 2010, that I started asking myself deeper questions, the meaning of life. If I die right now, well, where would I be, or what does that look like? And this kind of spark kept kind of stirring in me to the point of realizing that my passion is people. And that's when I started my coaching career in 2011. So I've been coaching since July 2011. And then first 5 years was through Good Life Fitness, so more in the fitness industry. And then for the last 9 years, I've been doing a lot of, let's say, mental fitness through LMI and some spiritual fitness. And I just love seeing people shine and just kind of finding the goal in people and just bringing it out.
That's so cool. So obviously you talk and you preach a lot about leadership. In
Mm.
your opinion, what is true leadership and how do love and leadership intertwine?
Well, my personal mission is to lead with love. So I see them so intertwined and almost to the point that they're synonymous. You just cannot have leadership, true leadership, without having love. Because when you lead with love, you lead with no condition. You lead through a place of transformational leadership, and instead of transactional leadership that even Dan Martell talks in his book, Buy Back Your Time. But I have, now close to a decade of coaching leaders and applying transformational leadership in their business. But what's unique by when my angle is I have a very strong faith. So as I'm reading more scripture, I'm starting to see how there's no separation and there's actually quite a line. But when you have love at the center of your leadership, people feel safe, they feel seen, they feel understood, they feel accepted. And again, you just leave from this place where there's no expectation. It's like giving a gift. You give a gift to
Mm,
someone, there's no expectation on that gift, and it's up to the person to receive it or not. When you lead with love, you're leading from a place of giving a gift to the world, but there's no attachment. And that's what I found is at an abundance in the workforce. There's so much transactional leadership. Do this and then do that, and then the outcome is usually, well, not always, not sometimes, but always, you get temporary results. People are disengaged. People are very stressed. But at the core of it, I guess what I would need to define is love at the center of leadership. But what is love? Love to me is sacrifice. Paul writes. Paul writes that love is gentle, love is kind, love doesn't boast, doesn't self-seek. Love is not an emotion. Love can be an emotion, but love is more of an action. Love is a decision. Love is to choose to do good when wrong has been done to you. So when you lead with love, you're leading again without the condition, but you're leading without the expectation. But you're always seeking to do good, no matter has happened to you.
So you mentioned a couple things there. One, the transactional component, but you also mentioned transformational. Can
Mm.
you kind of describe to our listeners the difference between those two?
Well, the easiest analogy I can give you is the donkey pulling a cart. So the donkey pulling cart, if you use transactional leadership to motivate the donkey, you're either using fear or incentive. Fear is force, it's negative, it's temporarily in terms of the results, and you kind of whip the donkey with the stick, and the donkey technically pulls the cart. The other technique when using transactional leadership is you use incentive. So incentive is to use the exact same stick, and you put a carrot to the stick, and you dangle it in front of the donkey, and the donkey pulls the cart. So it's the same framework. You get temporary results. It's external, but the only difference is one's positive versus fear is negative. But it's the same blueprint, transactional leadership. There's a cause and effect. You do this, you get this return. If you don't do this, I'll take this from you. I would say in 97% of leaders in the workforce, that's all they have in their toolbox when it comes to motivating people, but also motivating themselves. And the other key thing here is the motivation is external. Whenever we motivate ourselves with an external thing, it could be guilt, it could be drive, it could be status, it could be, again, the carrot or the stick. That is transactional leadership. Transformational leadership is internal. It's a matter of not the stick, the carrot. It's about embodying a change in who you are, your identity. It's about becoming. You must first become so then you can have, right? And the results from that is permanent. It's no longer a donkey, it's a racing horse. The donkey loves to run, no, sorry, the racing horse loves to run because that's in his DNA. They don't need a stick or a carrot. They're just like, I'm a runner. Like, but the incentive may be helpful, it may be good. You can still use it, but there needs to be something bigger in their life. So it's less about mission, it's less about money, it's more about mission,
Man, I
right?
can see the parallels to that, not just in business, but in life, in schooling. It's
Mm,
it's pretty crazy how that transcends all aspects of life. You know, when I think about the school system, how much of it is transactional. Do this, you'll get this grade. It has
yeah.
nothing to do with becoming who you want to be or what you want to be. It's crazy.
Well, yeah, that's why it's harder whenever I coach a young adult or a teenager. They're really in the thick of that, me telling you how you should live your life. And then when they're actually being coached through real coaching, listening, asking, probing, discovering, rediscovering, re-engineering thought process, then it's so new, it's so foreign. Like the defining like your success when for years they've been told how success should be defined for them.
For
Uh,
sure.
it's a complete different dialogue.
So when talking about this, we can't not talk about goals. Often
Mm,
when goal setting is taught, it's taught in a very rigid way. So
mm.
from your experience, what's the right way to approach goal setting and achieving meaningful goals?
Well, I think you hit it right in the nail on the last part. Meaningful goals. You can set goal to have fun, but if you're lacking fulfillment, it will lead to misery. And a lot of people they set goals, they're climbing the ladder of success, but then they realize the ladder is on the wrong wall.
Mm.
And then they're climbing this ladder through fear, human force, and drive and aspiration. And like it says in scripture, the heart wants what it doesn't have. And usually that's in Ecclesiastes. So, what that really means is without really knowing with certainty who we are as human beings, our true identity, then we will seek things in this world they should never be part of our life. And that's why a lot of people do traditional goal setting and they just set a goal, but then that's not actually what they want. And then it leads to being unfulfilled. I want to have this car because I saw that car driving the side of a street. Something that I kind of fell on in my early 20s, and I still keep saying it today, is open yourself up to the vision while detaching yourself from the plan. And often when you go through this process of discovery and you keep opening yourself up to the vision while detaching yourself from the plan, you certainly start seeing what I like to call the breadcrumbs. And these breadcrumbs are clues on the plan that I believe, from my worldview, was designed before you were born in the first place. So before, I believe there's a big plan for this world, there's a big plan for our life, and there's a uniquely handcrafted design plan for each and everyone's life. And sometimes we truthfully miss the mark because we're so obsessed with
Mm.
the planning part, which in our mind we think it's actually the goal, but it's not the what, it's actually more the how. So that's why if we keep kind of strengthening this muscle of opening ourselves up to the vision while detaching ourselves from the plan, then we start realizing that, all of these years I've been focusing on goals that are not actually a goal, that was actually part of a bigger plan. And again, in a traditional kind of form, like goal setting, I still do goal setting with myself, obviously with my clients. We talk about smart goals, we talk about becoming goals, we talk about obtainable goals. Like it's all part of the kind of the process of success. But what's key is our relationship towards the goal. We can't put the goal as uh, our goals can't become the God in our own life. It can't be the center focus, because if so, usually what that creates is a discontentment. Because I've seen through hundreds of examples of someone saying, my goal is to make 200K. They make it, but then they're like, oh, I'm still miserable. That's not it. Okay, they make 250, 300, 500, and then, ah, why am I still searching for something? Because you're focusing on the wrong goal.
That's an interesting view, and I can definitely see that in people that I've worked with as well. You know, even if it's I want to weigh something, I want to weigh a certain amount. Once
Yeah.
they reach it, they realize I'm still not happy. Right?
Yeah.
Like that's you're focusing on the wrong thing. You can be
Mhm.
happy without having that number.
Yeah.
It doesn't change anything. It doesn't change the outcome.
Yeah, exactly. Because here's the thing, the journey is more important than the end. And people are obsessed with the end. And
Yeah.
a great example of this, the first client I've ever coached, her name was Mel. She lost over 100 pounds in 12 months, ran a 5K, and then ran a half marathon 6 months after. I've coached her for over 4 years consistently through Good Life. First client I ever coached. She never had a goal to lose weight. She never followed a meal plan. She never followed anything extreme. It was just a continuous transformation in
Mm.
how she saw herself. And the outcome of that is she achieved a healthy lifestyle. And it was just through a simple process of adding something good in her life continuously. And all of these things that we added became habits. And these habits just build, well, losing 100 pounds, ran a half marathon within a year and a half of transformation. But that the focus was never on that goal. It was
Right.
more
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
becoming.
When I talk about goal setting with people, I use what's called the goal setting pyramid.
Mm,
So, what's the outcome? Like something that you can factually check off. But then one of the questions you need to answer, what when you attain that goal, what will that say about you? So there has to
Mm,
be an identity component to it.
mm,
Otherwise, the goal doesn't mean anything.
yeah.
So when you reach that goal, what will it say about you? And that's
Mm,
something that you have to keep in the back of your mind, because motivation will wane, things will get tough, obstacles will definitely present themselves. It's
mm,
that identity component that's going to keep you on
mm,
track or allow you to get back on track
mm.
without getting steamrolled by life, because life's hard and it's not a flat line.
Yeah, exactly.
So that brings me to another question about motivation.
Mm,
How, in your opinion, how can we cultivate it? And especially when life presents us with challenges or it feels overwhelming.
mm. Great question. So personally, I don't really believe in, which is a fairly common trend of thought. I don't really believe in motivation. Again, because motivation is same language, transactional leadership, versus inspiration is transformational. But to get true inspiration, for me, it really goes back to something else a lot of people talk about. You need to have something bigger in your life that you're focusing on. You can call that your purpose. You can call that your universe. You can call that maybe your fate, because we all have fate. We all have fate in something. Some of our fate is in maybe politics. Some of our fate could be in ourself, our finance, our business. For me, my fate is in God. So for me, when it comes to real transformational leadership, real discipline, it really comes through the dependency, more of the healthy dependency on that thing that is bigger than yourself. Like Viktor Frankl, right, as many
Mm.
people know, survived concentration camp. He talked about because he was focused on his purpose instead of the pain, and people that are focused on pain actually physically died because it was that painful. So for me, when it comes to discipline, I abide more in him, and then what that happens is I'm being led more by him and less myself. And what in that process of abiding more in Him, then what happens is, well, the fruits comes out like a healthy tree. There's more love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and self-control. Self-control is one of the fruits that we gain as we abide more into Him. So which is discipline. So and that's my reasoning. That's my kind of my reasoning when it comes to building discipline is when I get myself less in the way, I can become a higher performer because one of the fruits is self-control.
So I think I already know the answer to this, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. Who is the greatest teacher of all time? And I'm curious of who you believe it is and why.
Yeah. Well, so religion aside, as a human being, my answer has to be Jesus, because he lived 30 years as a humble carpenter, just a normal life, just like kind of. But then at the age of 30, he started his own business, and then he recruited 12 managers to encourage people to have a message of hope. And through that 3 years of uh, of business, he had a very epic influence, even to the point that he has like I had maybe have like I think like 1,000 followers on Facebook, maybe 1,000 friends, or maybe 10,000 on LinkedIn. He has over 200, 2.5 billion followers. Like Dan, I don't think Dan Martell will ever reach that amount of followers. So 2.5 billion followers. So when it comes to influence, when it comes to leadership, when it comes to teaching people what is true to me, that's really kind of who I personally follow or do my best to follow. And that's the where I come and I kind of gather my own inspiration because he was one of the I'll explain why I thought he was a greatest teacher. He was very gifted in using earthly concepts, stories, analogies to explain. meaningful principle, meaningful things that really matters. So an example, whenever he would speak to maybe a fisherman, he would speak their language to teach things that are very valuable for that person's life, but he wouldn't really kind of consume them with fancy words or fancy ideas. He would relay the message based on his audience. So when it comes to teaching, that's also something that, and quite honestly, I'm not the greatest teacher. That's not my gifting. Like, I'm more of the kind of the guy making the road to bring a teacher to someone that needs to be taught. Um, but in terms of teaching, like he was the goat.
Do you find that's one of the issues with some of the people that are coming into your leadership training is
Mm.
that they only know how to speak in their language, and that kind of creates issues and problems for them within their organizations?
Well, yeah, like yeah, because we all have a different. We use the word conditioning. We're all conditioned through this world, and I call it the crap of life. So we're all conditioned differently. So when someone enters into a leadership development process, they have their own conditioning that I need to kind of help them get rid of. And that's what coaching is really all about. It's more about unlearning,
Mm.
less learning, or relearning or re-engineering some of the things happening kind of in themselves and yeah, so but that's the big part of it. I just had a client last week. Finally, after a few sessions, I always say every client will have an awakening, like a real awakening. It's not just a catch the line on the website. There's gonna be an awakening, and you're not gonna realize when it happens, and when it does, the light's on. It will never turn off again. And he just had his awakening after lesson two, and he's like, "Oh, I just get it. It's not about the program. It's not about the my time. It's not about this. It's like, oh, I can." And then you can see that transformation happening like live in the moment.
Yep. Yep.
And then he's like, I feel like I just can never go back to the old ways. I just feel like I'm on this new path of self-discovery in a whole different level.
How amazing is that as a coach when you get to experience that, when you see it, and
Yeah.
oftentimes you can hear it happen too.
Yeah, no, it's what brings more fire, I guess, to what I do, and every time we kind of celebrate those small successes or the big
Yeah.
successes, it just brings something in me to just do more, be more, and just kind of share more with the world. Like again, I truthfully believe in again leading with love, and so I don't have any expectation, I don't have any conditions. I just kind of show up, do my best, and if there's inspiration from that, I give glory where glory needs to be given, and I just have fun doing it.
So cool. I get emotional when I think about stuff like that. I call them I forget the word you use, but I call them cognitive shifts. And when you
Mm,
have somebody like you can visibly see them like they sit back in their chair or they go, "Oh, I never thought of it like that before." And when that shift happens, it's literally fuel for my fire. And
mm,
that's what keeps me coming back over and over again. And it's
mm,
fun to be able to tap into somebody who hasn't experienced that shift before. So
mm.
anyway, just
That's amazing.
my thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Um,
amazing.
have you ever had any defining failures or low points in your life that in hindsight became one of your greatest lessons?
Oof. That's
Pick one. Pick one. I'm sure there's
pick one. I have
multiple.
so many. I've been so many hardships from wrestling with pornography to full personal bankruptcy, $200,000 of debt to being crippling by insecurities and crying to the point that I would be on the floor crying with my kids while Chloe was just born. Luca was in diapers, and I just felt like hopeless. I just felt like it was the end of the world because financially I wasn't well, and mentally I was a train wreck. But behind the scene, I was living a lie. I was showing up online, I was showing up in my coaching classes, but behind the scene, I was still kind of struggling with pornography. So I felt like a real imposter, and I felt gross. But while I was crying on the floor, Luca's like, I don't know what to do. So he did what an infant may think of doing. So he gave me his milk bottle. Like he's like, I don't know what to do. So here you
Makes
go.
him feel better, right?
He's like, he helps me, so maybe he's gonna help you because I don't know what to do. So he gave me his milk bottle, and that's where I was again thinking about, okay, well, I wonder what influenced him to do that. And
Mm,
that's when I start making more kind of connection and here's a word, Emmanuel. Emmanuel is a powerful name because it says that he is always with us. He is always with us, Emmanuel, Emmanuel. And it was at that moment that I learned truthfully what Emmanuel meant is that there's always going to be something there that will be supporting me at any given time. So at my lowest, I've also learned a profound lesson that no matter where I'm at in this world, no matter who I'm going to become, no matter what challenges I'm going to go through, there was always going to be some sort of force or leader kind of leading me in that moment.
that's so cool.
Yeah.
If for anybody listening right now, if they feel lost or they've lost their sense of purpose,
Mm.
what would you say to them? Where do you think that they should start?
Well, keep knocking on the door. The door will open. Keep asking. You'll receive the answers, and keep kind of having those conversations with again yourself, through journaling, through whatever universe, whatever you believe in, like, have that conversation, build that relationship that we all need, we all thirst for, because it's through that conversation that we start receiving clarity on who we are, what we're called to do, things we should do, things we should not do. So it's really through that conversation. So don't be afraid. Probably the best thing I can share, I guess if I would summarize what I just said, is truth telling. Speak what is true, but speak what is true of things that you're afraid of speaking of. We all have things that we have not shared yet, and those things are already known. But the more we can kind of move that boundary forward and speak of like, this, oh, I don't feel like sharing this thing right now. The more we can speak of that, the more healing that happens. Living A great book called Living Fearless. The author is remarkable because he realized his calling at a really young age, actually by skipping church, and he saw RCP worker, and then this guy realized that this is my calling. So he started his career as an RCP worker, and then one of the first mission was to find someone that was kidnapped, and he was just kind of sitting aside of the street. He's like, "Hey, it would be pretty cool if I know where this kid is." And then he actually gained a revelation, and then he go to the back of a van, and he opened the trunk, and he found the kid. And now his career has thousands of examples of this, where he has specific information on what to do, and he usually goes places like overseas with like real life James Bourne type of person, to kind of self defense, but he has kind of the prophetic gifting, and long story short, his whole ministry, he goes to people that have done very awful things, and then he asks them this question: "Who are you?" And then usually associate themselves with religion or blah 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 blah, and then no, who are you? And then eventually he gets them to do what I just explained. He gets them to do truth telling. He gets them to be real. He gets them to speak what is true around their fears. What are you really afraid of? And then when we're in the presence of someone else and we start speaking these things that we're really afraid of, then healing happens. And then we start truly discovering who we truly are or who we're meant to be.
So you mentioned earlier on, would journaling be a good start in that avenue? Like
Mm.
instead of telling somebody or telling somebody you know, just start writing it out because as soon as it gets out of your head and you write it down, then it becomes real. It's kind of like a stepping stone. And then once it's written out, well, okay, maybe I could start telling somebody about this. And that
Mm.
it kind of snowballs from there. Would that be a good recommendation?
Absolutely. Like writing is crystallizes your thoughts and improves focus action. Writing is planting a seed in your subconscious mind. Writing is again makes it real, like you said. You get to see it. Most of our comes through sight. So create some sort of deeper level of awareness, especially like pencil,
Mm,
paper, pen. Your brain will make over 100 connections with your neurons versus if you type a letter, you'll just get five. So it's a different level of focus. There's a different level of transformation. But writing is definitely one of those habits that we should all have as one of our non-negotiables.
cool. A few final questions for you here. Do you have a scripture verse or quote that you turn to often when you need some strength in your own life?
Mm. Well, I've there's definitely a handful. I would say Exodus 14:14, like be still and know that God is fighting your battles. Or if I need guidance, Proverbs 3:5-7, where trust the Lord with all your hearts, lean not unto your own understanding, search for His will in all you do, and He'll strengthen your paths. Or Psalms 23, like, Lord, you're my shepherd, I shall not want or I shall not need. Talking in the depth of like, he got me. Like I don't need to kind of figure out because I've seen myself in seasons where I would meditate on Psalms 23 for 3 days straight, in the background, just meditating and digesting kind of that specific um, poem or scripture or verse or whatever to gain some sort of hope because I generally felt hopeless. Uh, but what was really unique is it just helped me to become more humble. Like it helped me kind of realize that I don't have to play God in my own life anymore. I have a father that loves me unconditionally, and he just wants a relationship. Like, but again, religion overcomplicates it and puts a lot of pain, I guess, into this world. I would say with confidence, which is a very untraditional statement, that the cause of most division in the world is because of the cause of the most division in this world is because of religion. Like that's why the world is so divided. It's because of religion. Uh, but when you strip all that away, there's a relationship. There's a
Mm.
relationship that we all thirst. And then when we kind of entertain and we start building that relationship, everything changes.
A lot of what you just mentioned really boiled down to its bare bones is faith. You have faith
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
it's going to turn out the way it was supposed to.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely something that I'm actually in my book that whenever it will be published, it's one of the three ideas that I'm really gonna expose through a completely different lens, that will kind of reach that leader that kind of doesn't want to go to church, don't care about religion, but they're seeking answers.
Mm.
And that's who I'll be speaking to through that book. And fate is definitely one of those ideas that'll kind of expose, because we all have fate. Like I have fate right now that this laptop will not die in the middle of this podcast because it's actually charged and I have full battery. Like that's I don't need a lot of fate for that to happen because it's actually charged. But if it wouldn't be charged, and I may need more fate, that the laptop will not turn off. We all have fate, and we all have fate in something, and that thing could be ourself, it could be whatever, but then as we kind of recalibrate that center, thing changes.
It sounds like that book is being written for me, so I appreciate that. Thank you. Do you have what's the greatest lesson that life is teaching you right now today?
Well, I just spoke about that this morning as I was One of my conversations was in I love to spend time in recovery centers, and I was with Naomi Root in Shediac. That's where I kind of hang out Monday mornings. And I was talking a bit about kind of what's happening in my own heart as I'm kind of talking about their hearts. And I was talking, the theme for the last 2 weeks as we're actually speaking is to seek and obey. I'm really kind of strengthening that muscle of just seeking, obeying, seek and obey, seek and obey, seek and obey. And because here's the reality: there's a lot of changes in my life, like in all aspects of life, like financially, mentally, emotionally, socially, and just there's a lot of moving parts. And whenever I kind of get my head out of the sand and I look at all the moving parts, I get overwhelmed. So I kind of go back into kind of my secret place, and then I go back to intentionally and continuously seeking what's my next step and just obeying whatever that is. And it's really in a micro scale. It could be minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, but I just continuously kind of what's next. So I seek and then I obey, whatever it is. I don't care what it is because I'm no longer a kind of the dictator of how I should live my life, so that obeying is just at a supreme level of respect, and I just do it.
Very cool. I love ending all of my episodes with the same question, and I'll end this one as well. In your own words, what's your definition of resilience?
That's a very very interesting question. I actually in there's an app called Wild at Heart by John Eldridge. Highly recommend it. It's a free app. Um, in that app, it's an app for meditation, and in the app, there's actually a plan. It's a 30-day plan on resilience. It's a 30-day plan on resilience, that you do like 8 minutes in the morning, 9 minutes at night for 30 days. You just listen, you kind of go through the process. I've done it countless of times. And so I get continuous kind of positive brainwashing on kind of building resilience. And I would say my greatest discovery in that, which is again very untraditional, I would say is the word, um, can't have a hard time pronouncing it, but consecration, consecration. So giving it away, like giving it fully, like away, like giving it, cutting it off, I guess, if I want to use a different language. So resilience is really a process of consecrating yourself, consecrating your mind, consecrating your heart, your emotions, yourself, your business, your finance, just giving it away, because we're not designed to do most of the battles we're fighting. And then when we kind of humble ourselves, like I kind of talked about, to be still and know, and kind of refer proverbs, like just kind of seeking, and I also talked about opening yourself up to division while detaching yourself from the plan. Often we kind of glorify the plan, and then we stress about these things, and then we're lacking resilience because we're not consecrating it. We're not giving it back away. We think that we're owners of our bank's accounts, and then it stresses out, and then we lack resilience in our own finance. But then when you just realize that you're not an owner, you are a steward. you're just gonna be, you're just borrowing these treasures, these responsibilities. Then you build true resilience, not resilience that is man-made, but resilience that stays permanently.
Even your own body, you're just borrowing it for the time that you're here.
Yeah, and quite honestly, it's something I'm still wrestling as we speak. Like physically, like I'm still an emotional eater. I still have negative self-image, because I've done the powerlifting competition. I've done the bodybuilding competition. I've done all of this, and I'm not at my peak. So then my monkey brain will compare the present with the past, which is just stealing from what the potential is. But it's a work in progress. I'm getting there. I'm getting
Right
somewhere.
on. That's cool. This has been a great conversation, Gabriel. Thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything else you'd like to let our listeners know before we sign off for today?
Uh, no, it was absolutely a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I hope that there were some definitely some valuable information, concepts, ideas, principle from the conversation. I'm an open book. If anyone wants to connect for a conversation, I'm more than happy to do so at whatever capacity.
Sure. Who would you like to share? Where could our listeners find you?
I'd love to connect online. So I have a habit of sharing daily on LinkedIn, Facebook. Pretty easy to find. There's a website for the organization, basqueleadershipgroup.ca. Yeah, I'm pretty easy to get a hold of.
Awesome. And we'll definitely keep our listeners in check when it comes to the release of your book. Do you have a date for that?
No, it's been quite the journey. I have it. It's done. It's all written. In my mind, I'm like I want it to be published in August. But then when I start studying the publication process, I was like, this is like another year process. I'm like, this could be a year and a half. This is intense because also I'm led to believe, which is really big. I'm really confident in this that John Maxwell will be endorsing the book. So he will be writing in it or whatever it is. I don't know how that is all gonna unfold. So right now I'm doing the editing. I gotta talk to John. I've already have my in that conversation, and then after I want to use most likely the same publication company that he used, and that could be again 6 months, 2 years process. I don't know.
Cool.
But like I said, I'm just very open to the vision, and I'm not attached to the plan.
That's awesome. I'll keep my eye out for it because I'm sure it's gonna hit. It's gonna be a
Yeah,
good one. So,
yeah.
thank you again so much for coming on. Your message is valuable, and I'm sure our listeners will take a lot from this. So, thank you for coming on today.
Wow. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with others or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest episodes, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.